The U.S. Pacific Command has detected a missile threat to Hawaii. A missile may impact on land or sea within minutes. This is not a drill. If you are indoors, stay indoors. If you are outdoors, seek immediate shelter in a building. Remain indoors well away from windows. If you are driving, pull safely to the side of the road and seek shelter in a building or lay on the floor.
All right, I will not traumatize you any further with this particular predictive programming. It's interesting, isn't it? For those who don't know, of course, yes, yesterday or 2 days ago, depending when and where you're listening to this, there was a missile threat announced for the state of Hawaii, an intercontinental ballistic missile on the way, about to impact. Take shelter. This is not a drill, except it turns out, I guess it was a false alarm after all, and we've already seen the Steve Urkel of this incident, did I do that, rolled out in front of the cameras to dutifully explain that it was all just the fault of his fat finger during some routine check or other.
I deeply apologize for the trouble and heartbreak that we caused today. We spent the last few months trying to get ahead of this whole threat so that we could provide as much notification and preparation time to the public. Today was something that I regret because I accept responsibility for this. This is my team. We made a mistake. We were going to take processes and study this so that this doesn't happen again.
Yes, it's a mistake, and it won't happen again. Sorry, trust us next time, guys. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't really trust an explanation like that as far as I can throw it. The idea that it was a single worker during a single routine check during a shift handover that somehow or other pressed the wrong button, and wouldn't you know it, okay, ballistic missile heading to Hawaii, takes 38 minutes for them to fully retract and put out the false alarm. Interesting and unbelievable. So what are the real alternatives here? Well, there are, of course, many people digging into this, as I'm sure you've seen over the past 24 hours or so, one of them being Dan Dix over at Press for Truth, who laid out some of the various options for what this really could be about this way.
And in my opinion, there's only 3 possible explanations for what happened this morning. This was either a huge mistake, just like they said it was, and no one's hurt, that's the end of that, case closed. Or this was a real ballistic missile that was secretly intercepted sometime during the 38 minutes of sheer panic and confusion. Or this was a deliberate scare tactic, a psychological operation carried out on the American people to not only gauge their reaction, but to also condition them so that when an attack does happen, the last place they're going to point their finger to is the American government, who, in my opinion, should always be suspect number 1.
All right, so those are a few of the options, to which I would only add, I think the important one missed out there is the possibility that this was a drill of some sort, a drill that did not go live, or maybe it kind of did, but was intercepted in a way. What am I referring to? Well, first of all, part of this official explanation that they put out, what went wrong with Hawaii's false emergency alert from that trusted, totally non-fake news mainstream media, so our CNN, the mishap took place during a routine drill run after a shift change, Vern Miyagi, the agency's administrator said. During the drill, an officer in the Emergency Operations Center mistakenly selected an incorrect template, which shows what message is going to be sent, Miyagi said. The template that the officer inadvertently selected was prepared to send the message to the public. The officer was supposed to have chosen a template that would only be sent internally. After the template is selected, Miyagi said, a note appears on the computer asking for the officer to confirm that they want to send the message. The officer responsible accidentally clicked yes, Miyagi said. At that point, the message, ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii, seek immediate shelter, this is not a drill, was sent to Hawaii residents and vacationers. It also went out to TV and radio. And they talk about how they've adjusted the template system, and now there's a false alarm template, and blah, blah, blah. This won't happen again. But, again, I think there's some interesting questions surrounding that, about this routine drill and whether this is the way that it really went down. For those who don't understand the concept of a drill gone live, I will refer you to my brief history of false flag drills that I wrote last year for the International Forecaster. So that's there up on the website. I'll put the link in the show notes, as always. And I think that's certainly one of the possibilities we have to look at, or at least be aware of, for possible future use, because there is always the possibility that during a drill of some sort, something will happen, and oh my god, it isn't a drill. No, this is not an exercise, not a test, as we heard so many times on the day that changed everything. Right? Well, and there's another interesting piece of this puzzle for people who scoff at the idea this is some sort of psyop against the public, War of the Worlds style, back in 1930s, and people might remember or might not remember my treatment of that particular incident, but I'll put a link in the show notes to take you back to about how that was actually a psyop that had Rockefeller connections. But anyway, Hawaii missile alert test goes wrong, terrifies the state here from NBC News, reveals an interesting little tidbit that I think might be relevant to this investigation.
24 hours before the false alarm, we were given an exclusive tour of the room where it was triggered because of what state officials say was the push of a wrong button.
This is where the call comes in that notifies us of a ballistic missile launch.
If a nuclear missile is launched from North Korea, that's where you're going to find out?
That's right. These are state warning officers. They'll receive a call from the Pacific Command on a secure line and make a decision to activate the statewide siren system.
Where's the phone?
It's right here behind us.
Saturday morning, that phone never rang, and there never was a signal from the military to sound the alarm.
Okay, wait. 24 hours before this false alarm went out, NBC News was in the very room from which the false alarm was issued, getting a tour and getting footage and getting interviews? That sounds odd. That sounds a bit of a coincidence. It's certainly possible. This is an issue that is swirling around in the air, obviously, so there is media attention. But I just find that to be an interesting little tidbit. At any rate, not sure if that's consequential or not, but I'll leave it there for your consideration. And one other thing that I think I should throw in is that we have covered this issue before. And when I say we, I mean myself and James Evan Pilato of MediaMonarchy.com on New World Next Week. Back in 2011, we were talking about the presidential emergency alert system, which had just been set up and was being tested nationwide for the first time back in 2011.
A nationwide emergency alert system test will take place Wednesday, November 9th. All television and radio stations will be interrupted for the test. How widespread the test will be, and will the test shut down general communications like phones and computers? Good questions. Most broadcast companies test their statewide system every month. On November 9th, there will be a nationwide test of the emergency alert system. The EAS is used by the National Weather Service along with local and state agencies. This will be the first national activation of the test. Questions and rumors have been circulating in the past few weeks about exactly what will be interrupted during the test. While television and radio...
All right, I'll let you continue watching that. So just keep in mind, this is obviously not simply a concern for Hawaiians. This is a much greater concern for many people, including people all over the United States, including people all over the world, really, because, of course, similar systems exist in many countries, including here in Japan, where I reside. So it will be interesting to see if any more cookie crumbs come out about this particular incident. But at any rate, it certainly has brought the nuclear threat issue back to the forefront of the public consciousness in a startlingly dramatic fashion in Hawaii, and I'm sure we've all seen the images of people hiding down manhole covers and things like that. So some pretty crazy stuff to start the new year, isn't it? I don't have any definitive answers here. I don't know. And I have been scouring the various news sites and conspiracy subreddit and things like that. And of course, there's many people claiming to be experts. I've dealt with this for 20 years and I can tell you blah, blah, blah. Well, I trust those types of accounts as far as I can throw them from anonymous strangers on the internet. There's been a lot of people saying a lot of things online, but nothing really definitive that I've seen. But I am certainly interested in what you guys can uncover. So in that spirit, please go to CorbettReport.com and go to the post, this particular post. Leave your own information, anything that you can source, any data that you have about this incident. I'd be interested to see it, and leave it in the comments section. I'll be very much interested in seeing what you guys can dig up. That's going to do it for today. James Corbett, CorbettReport.com.